Peers is dying, and my people are suffering. The money's still low, you should see how they budgeting. Watch what comes out your mouth. People are suffering. It's elementary, they want us all gone eventually. Peers is dying, people are suffering. The money's still low, you should see how they budgeting.
Black Talk Radio Live Drive at 5. Scotty Reed in for this broadcast from behind these enemy lines, where they say liberty and justice for all, but that is a bunch of bull. But you know, we out to change that by any means necessary. Yeah, I want to jump on this story right quick about this. Man, it's just unfortunate to have to report on these things, but we can't ignore them. We can't ignore proxy racism because it's a tool of racism. When somebody is engaged in warfare against you, it makes no sense to, let's say, ignore their artillery, ignore their stealth bombers, and not try to come up with a way to neutralize those tools. And so that's why I talk about, while it pains me, you know, to highlight the mental, I don't know what to call it. I'm trying not to engage in name calling and whatnot. It pains me to point out the mental illness that far too many people who look like us, who are non-white people, suffer from. You know, I guess they say the first step to recovery is identifying it, you know, but, you know, we had a conversation with David Clarke, who is the sheriff of Milwaukee County in Wisconsin. When I say have a conversation, he did not come on the radio program. No, we engaged with him on his Facebook profile. That was myself, Max Parthis, and Johannan, and some of our friends, fellow abolitionists. And we were trying to explain to this man his role in the system of white supremacy, his role in being a 21st century slave catcher. And he, you know, was engaging in all of this anti-blackness on Facebook. And of course, racists and white supremacists are going to highlight a person like that. They're going to elevate them in the media and say to them, they're going to racially showcase them and say, see, this black man thinks black people are the problem. So yeah, it must be true. We're not only white people believe this, not only Fox News believes this, not only Rush Limbaugh believes this, but hey, here's a member of your community who believes it as well. And so David Clarke appeared on Fox News to not talk about the lack of progress in the investigation of the bombing of the NAACP out there in Colorado. I forget the name of the city it was located in, but it was in the state of Colorado. Still, I have nothing new to report. So he wasn't on Fox News to talk about, you know, what is, you know, I thought we had all this modern technology and this and that and forensics and blah, blah, blah. And, how come we can't identify, this man? We were able to identify, you know, 12 hijackers who flew planes into the, World Trade Center within, 48 hours, but yet we can't find this man. We can't even come up with a name or address. So no, he wasn't on there to talk about that. He was on there to blame the NAACP and say that the NAACP was wrong to blame police for shooting black men. Now, I haven't even had an opportunity to listen to this audio clip of him, his appearance on the racist propaganda network, Fox News, but I'm listening to the first time along with you if you haven't heard it yet.
All right, police body camera video shedding light on a deadly shooting in Oklahoma. A warning, the images are graphic. Watch if you wish. An officer makes the split-second decision to fire his weapon after police say this suspect, after going to be arrested, turns and decides to run. He faces the officer with a loaded gun, but the NAACP says the cop should have asked questions first. So what is their end goal? Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clarke saw this video, wanted to weigh in, and we want him to. Well, Sheriff, what do you think about what we know so far? It looks like he was being arrested, decides to run, drops something to the side, said to be a gun, and he wouldn't stop, so the officer shot. Your review?
Well, just from looking at the tape, and I know there's a lot more involved, but that's a good shoot. I mean, it's police vernacular, and in legal speak, it's a justifiable shooting. But there'll be more investigation. But there's something else here about the NAACP that needs to be said. This once proud organization that was a force for good has relegated itself into irrelevancy. And I challenge anybody to name the last significant accomplishment that the NAACP has achieved in the United States for people of color. I would probably say it was the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And since then, this organization has become nothing more than a political propaganda entity for the left. So let's break this down in terms of what the NAACP should be focused on, and they can get this discussion started in the black community because we need to have it.
Right.
And it's the behavior of our young black men. Okay, let's unpack this thing for a minute. You got this young black man armed with a firearm, all right, illegally, stalking and terrorizing his girlfriend, all right? There's another problem there. And then he's standing outside a church where there's a wedding, and the pastor had to call frantically to get the police there because of this guy's behavior. So the discussion we need to be having, if the NAACP can lead it and stay off the police, is why is this stuff happening and what are we going to do about it? The number one cause of this, Brian, is father-absent homes. So what are we going to do in terms of having more effective parenting, more role modeling, more engaged fathers in the lives of these young black men so that we don't have this behavior. The behavior is what we need to be talking about.
And we'll put yourselves in your shoes there, or your fellow officers. They get a call to go to a wedding because this 21-year-old is going to show up there. He has claimed that there's he's coming up there with a gun and he's got a bullet with your name on it. So the pastor scrambles to call 911. So they know this guy is dangerous. He seems to have evil intentions. So that's the mentality of the officer pursuing this prospective suspect. Here's what the NAACP did say. He says there is this mentality out there of a shoot first, ask questions later, and I think emphasis should be placed on trying to take those people alive. And the mom said, essentially, they shouldn't have shot him. They should have just tried to catch him. What's your reaction?
Well, what did his dad say? You know, we always hear what his mom said. And look, you know, mom loves her son. We all get that. But the shoot first and ask questions later, anytime a law enforcement officer is in a situation where a gun is introduced by a suspect, yeah, it's shoot first, stop the threat, and then ask questions later. And also, when you run from the police, I'll tell you right now, you're headed toward a very dark place where things are not going to go well for you. And the reason is, and that doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be shot and that you should die, but the fact is, that is one of the most dangerous situations an officer can be involved in, a foot pursuit, and then with an armed suspect. Yeah, this is unfortunate. This has had to happen, but let's focus on the behavior of our young black men and not the police.
Sheriff, I just hope people around the country aren't starting to question everything you guys do, because that's a very dangerous place when we have trouble trusting law enforcement from sea to shining sea. Sheriff Clarke, thanks so much.
It's always my pleasure.
All right, 10 minutes before the top of the hour.
Okay, I'm back. Number of things wrong there. I was taking notes while I was listening to that propaganda. All right, history. I'm going to tackle that first. History of the NAACP. While I'm not in much disagreement with what he said about what has the NAACP accomplished since the 1964 Voting Rights Act, I'm glad he didn't mention the school desegregation, Brown versus Board of Education, and I'm not going to go off into that and the harm that has caused the black community. But this is what I'll say about the NAACP. They've been good for putting certain issues out there for public discourse. Okay. I don't judge every NAACP chapter by what its main headquarters does. I don't judge them. I have had conversations and contact with members of the NAACP at different county chapter levels in states. I think that the head of the North Carolina NAACP, Reverend Barber, what is Reverend Barber's first name? I can't think of Reverend Barber's first name, but he has been doing a good job at mobilizing people around, you know, the underfunding of black schools and pointing that out. They're also involved in the latest lynching to happen in North Carolina. Of course, I'm speaking of Lynn and Lacey. So I don't want people, you know, just like I feel like it's wrong or incorrect for people to paint any kind of group of people or religion with a broad brush and subscribe, what some of them may be doing to all of them, what this man just did. But I was reading again, Negroes with Guns, written by Robert F. Williams, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., and I forget the third author's name. And it talked about the failure of the NAACP to address issues of Klan violence in the United States. In North Carolina. They refused to get involved in the case of what was known as the kissing case, where this young white girl who knew this young black boy because his mother used to work for her mother and they used to play together, and she hadn't seen him in a while, and she kissed him on the cheek. And they charged this little boy and the other little black boy with raping, this little white girl, cause she went and told her mother, oh, I seen so and so and I kissed him on the cheek. And her mother got all hysterical. And the next thing you know, these boys been convicted of raping this child and sent off to reformatory. And the NAACP was called upon to help in that case, and they ignored it. Robert Williams talks about, every time they reached out to the NAACP national headquarters, how they just ignored them. I view the NAACP, which is a integrated organization, at least when it was started by white people, and funded by white people. I think the NAACP is what's a phrase I could use? It's a tool of proxy racism. To seem like you're focusing in on serious issues and serious solutions, but really you got us going in circles. Okay. And so, without jumping all over the NAACP again, I don't judge every member of the NAACP or every chapter of the NAACP by what the national NAACP, those people at the top, are doing or not doing. So I don't want people to get the wrong impression, but just read the history of the NAACP. Now he gets into talking about, we should be talking about the behavior of young black men. Again, subscribing, and let me say this. What that young black man did was incorrect. Of taking a gun, getting emotional cause his ex-girlfriend about to marry somebody else, and taking a gun and issuing threats. Totally incorrect behavior. All right. Now, I don't know all the details of the case, but it sounds like to me that, he had a gun, that he ran away, he threw the gun away and continued to run away and was shot in the back. All right. So yeah, I would not say that was justified. I don't think a death sentence, is, justifiable, in this particular case. Well, I don't believe in a death sentence, period, but I do believe that sometimes we do have to kill people to protect ourselves. Okay. But it doesn't seem like these cops who killed this young man who was engaged in incorrect behavior, it seems like it was not, as he called it, a good shoot. All right. They shot a man while he was running away. Does that sound familiar? Okay. So, anyway, but he subscribed the behavior of this young man with, like this is occurring, every young black man is engaged in this criminal, behavior, this incorrect behavior. Again, people watch the media. They keep hearing people who look like us and, those who don't look like us, keep repeating this same thing over and over and over and over, but they never address the underlying issues. Okay. And so here he is, demonizing young black men, period. Instead of talking about it in terms of this one individual, who was engaged in incorrect behavior and just, framing it around, the things that happened leading up to him getting shot and whatnot. No. Let's blame all black men and portray them all as a bunch of gun-toting thugs running around threatening people at weddings and whatnot. Okay. So yeah, that's incorrect on his part. That's incorrect on his part, and it's intentional in his part, because I have been doing a little bit of background research into him and the things he's putting out there in the public. As I mentioned, we got into a conversation with him on Facebook, wasn't calling them names, wasn't, name calling or anything like that, but trying to have a logical debate about the issues and his role in 21st century slavery and human trafficking, and him participating in, demonizing our people. All right. Now, I've written about this before. I've written an article about this. Next thing I'm going to focus on, I've written articles about it. I've done extensive research into it, going back several years, because this myth, this propaganda has been put out there a long time. He wants to say, where was the father? Why is the mother speaking? And the NAACP need to be talking about absent black fathers. His word was father absent homes. So I'm not going to pick at his grammar, because my grammar isn't all of that, but that was his words, father absent homes. Okay, again, before I tell you why that's a lie, but first, again, for those homes that do not have a father living in them, okay, with the mother, and they're raising the children. All right. Not talking about, again, they're not talking about, why are so many black fathers missing, and increasingly black mothers? Because they are a increasing target of the 21st century slavery and human trafficking. Their numbers have been increasing. Okay. And so he doesn't talk about the drug war. He doesn't talk about poverty. He doesn't talk about, not giving people a second chance when they have made mistakes that can be classified as crimes. So no, none of that plays a role into it. It's just something wrong with black fathers. They just abandon their children. Well, that's a doggone lie. And I've written about it. The last time I discussed this was this film that was produced by another proxy racist tool. I forget the name of the company. It's an entertainment company, and they made this documentary, and it was promoting that same myth. It was talking about unmarried black mothers. That's what it was talking about. Not to mention that just because a person is unmarried and doesn't have a piece of paper from the state, that doesn't mean they're single. Yeah, it was an issue of semantics with me, because I did the research, and a lot of people, period, not just black people, don't get married. They cohabitate. All right. They don't go to the state and get permission or pay for a license to get married and all this and that. And I know that's promoted for religious reasons or whatever, as some kind of tool to heal what's wrong with the black community. But that's wrong. Just because a woman may be listed as a single head of household on her tax return, that doesn't mean that that the father of her children is not involved, is not cohabitating with her. Maybe they decided to file separate, because they don't have that piece of paper. They decided to file separate tax returns, and only one of them could put themselves as head of household. And so the other person just, claimed probably a easy 1040 or something like that, and not putting himself out there. So that's what I'm saying, man. People just say stuff, and it is not a reflection of what the actuality of the situations are. So, but on his claim that all of these black fathers are absent, again, we have been having that conversation for a long time, but on my end, I've been talking about, this is a doggone straight up lie. All right. But I have seen organizations and advocates who promote father involvement with their children. Okay. All right. Michael Brown had two fathers, a stepfather and a father. Trayvon Martin was visiting his father when he was gunned down. His father was part of his life, even though him and his mother were divorced. Jordan Davis, his parents were divorced, but they both were involved in his life. Okay. So again, this is just pushing out there this propaganda to portray black women as being whores, just pushing out babies with no fathers, to portray black men as horny dogs, just going around impregnating all of these women and not taking responsibility for the children. This is all lies. This is all lies. Now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published, and this is an article, this isn't my article because I couldn't pull it up that fast, but this article was published on January 16, 2014, The Myth of the Absent Black Father. It was written by a black female, I presume, Tara Culp Wrestler. It doesn't have her picture, so I'm going to assume this is a black woman, but I could be incorrect. All right. Now, she uses data gathered from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which had published new data on the role that American fathers play in parenting their children. Most of the CDC's previous research on family life, which the agency explores as an important contributor to public health and child development, has focused exclusively on mothers. But the latest data finds that the stereotypical gender imbalance in this area doesn't hold true, and dads are just as hands-on when it comes to raising their kids. That includes African American fathers. Now, let me just share some of the data, because I actually used this graph that she shares in a propaganda piece that I made, image or meme as they call them these days, where I was calling out that film, and I put the data up. And so anyway, it says that, it's a color-coded graph. It focuses on Latino, white, and black fathers. It says fathers, it has two categories: father living with kids, father not living with kids. Okay. I'm just going to, go through these, each one, individually as quick as I can. So bear with me, because it's always good to put out the information. Now, look, children under the age of 5 fed or ate meals with their children daily. Okay. Black men led in the category. 78.2% of these fathers ate a meal with their children on a daily basis. All right. Black men leading the way. All right. Latino men came in second, 73.9%. And white men came in third, 63.9%. Father not living with kids that had meals with their children daily. Black men, 12.6%. Latino men, no, I'm sorry, I had it backwards. Let me give the correct information. White men, 73.9% came in second with fathers living with children. Latino men came in third. All right. Now, for father not living with kids, 12.6. Black men lead the way. White men, they didn't have any data whatsoever. No statistical data whatsoever. So we'll call that 0. All right. Latino men, 8.6% of them had meals with their children. Then it goes on to talk about, look, and I'm not even going to read the percentage points, but I'll just tell you who came in what. Bathed, diapered, or dressed children daily. Living with kids, fathers with kids. Black men and white men were nearly tied. Okay. Latino men came in third. Father not living with kids. Black men led the way. White men came in third. Latino men came in second. Read the children daily. Fathers living with children. Black men led the way, followed by white men, followed by Latinos. Not living with children. Black men lead again. White men come in second. And, there's no statistical information for, Latino men. All right. Children ages 5 to 18. Again, same categories, 8 meals with children daily. All right. Father living with kids. Now in this one, Latino men led the way. Then white men came in second, and then black men came in, close third. Fathers living without children. Okay. That were not living with their children, but 8 meals daily with them. Black men came in second, white men came in first, Latino men came in third. Talk to children about their daily. No, took children to or from activities. Black men led the way, followed by white men. No, followed by Latino men, then followed by white men. Okay, I'm not going to go through the rest of them. The rest of them shows that, black men led the way, talked to children about their, daily, help children with homework or check that they were finishing their homework daily. That one's important because it pertains to education. All right. Black men living with the children, 40.6%. White men, 28.1. Latino men came in second, 29.3. All right. So again, in the same, it follows the same trend for the fathers not living with the children. So why is this man, this proxy racist tool of racism repeating this propaganda? Mr. David Clarke, sheriff of Milwaukee County in Wisconsin, who wants to turn an incident of one black male getting emotional about his ex-girlfriend, about to marry somebody else, and issues a threat, and then when the police confront him, he runs away, throws the firearm away, and they continue to chase him and shoot him. All right. So how does he get from this one incident to all black men are engaged, or young black men are engaged in this type of activity, to there are no black men in the homes? When the government statistics from the Center for Disease Control put this information out that I just shared with you. See what I'm saying? But like Hitler said, if you tell a big lie, I don't care how big the lie is, and if you keep repeating it over and over and over, the lie becomes a fact. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about him.